Okay, we shall start now. A few minutes late. First of all, thank you very much for coming. Good morning to you. By way of introduction, my name is Adote Bingpapo, and I'm the co-chair of Cooperation Africa. We have a female co-chair, and I guess you can tell that I'm not the female co-chair. But unfortunately, she's not able to be with us here today. She has an important family engagement, but I should mention her. Her name is Professor Esther Gicheru. She's the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the Cooperative University of Kenya. So I welcome you to this conference on worker cooperatives and decent youth employment, which is being held here, clearly, in Lusaka, Zambia. This conference will take place over 3 days, today Monday, tomorrow Tuesday, and then Wednesday. I want to begin by just acknowledging the people and organizations that have helped to make this possible by focusing on our partner institutions, 3 of them. You can see their names behind me. The International Cooperative Alliance, Africa Office, and the Southern African Institute for Policy and Research. And also in that context, I should mention Charles Live University of Lusaka. Let me give you a very brief idea of what each has done. So the rationale, the content and structure of the conference was worked out by Cooperation Africa's programming working group, some of whom are here, and who I want to formally thank for their contribution to making this event happen. The International Cooperative Alliance Africa Office introduced the idea of the Worker Cooperative Design Challenge. We modified it slightly into something that we're calling the African Cooperative Entrepreneur Ambassadors. Just to let people understand that entrepreneurship is not only for individuals. Somebody who is in a cooperative can be an entrepreneur. Actually, let me just say it now. So what we're going to have a sort of two, it's like driving on a dual carriage motor. On one carriage, it's a set of presentations that are going to discuss various thematic issues. And on the other carriage, we have a group of young people. Enterprising, dynamic young people who have been working on an idea that they would like to see implemented by way of a worker cooperative in their communities. And the International Cooperative Alliance Africa Office has been helping them to develop those ideas. So that's a very major contribution, and on day 2 tomorrow, you will hear those ideas. Charles Life University helped us to identify diversity, helped us to identify the Zambian contingent. So let me explain. The bulk of the people that are here come from the 5 regions of Africa. But we decided that since we are here in Lusaka, we should also try and bring some people from Zambia. So Charles Life helped us to identify those people. So we have a contingent from Africa broadly, representing the regions of Africa. And we have a contingent from Zambia as well, as part of the ambassadors, the African cooperative entrepreneurs. Okay. So these are the people that have made the major contribution to developing the content of these next 3 days. I would also like to mention and thank the staff of Cooperation Africa who have worked out the details and implemented them. People who organize conferences here will know that these are not the simplest of things. So getting them to work is something of an achievement, and I want to acknowledge that. I want, at this juncture, to say a bit about who Cooperation Africa is, what we do. So essentially, Cooperation Africa is an NGO. We are not a cooperative, but we are made up of individuals who want to promote cooperatives in Africa. Some are business people, some are academics, some are activists. But they've all come together with that objective in mind. Cooperation Africa itself works in 3 areas. I want to just briefly describe those areas to you. The first, we try to raise awareness about cooperatives, because it is clear when you speak to people that many people do not really know a lot about co-ops. How do we do that? We hold monthly webinars where we invite African cooperatives to come and speak about what they do, their challenges, their successes. And because it's a webinar, it's open to everybody, actually. And that's one way of raising awareness. We also publish or distribute a monthly news bulletin which covers the activities of cooperatives. 80% of them have to be from Africa, and 20% of them are from outside Africa, from Asia, Latin America, Europe. Okay. But it talks about, the bulletin tells what is going on in the cooperative space on the continent. So that's part of the awareness raising. The other elements of the awareness raising is events like this, where we take a topic, try and discuss it, and try to make people aware. Secondly, other than that, we try and do research and what we call advocacy. So we being Cooperation Africa, commission people that we think are credible to do some research into the cooperative situation in African countries. We then, on the basis of what is found from that research, we try to engage in advocacy with the appropriate authorities and political decision makers, and try to get them to take various positions. Our first bit of research was done in Ghana. We had fairly prominent people. The head of the business school of the University of Ghana was one of the led the research team. And we have just completed, and we will launch at this meeting today, a report that has been done by the Southern African Institute for Policy and Research, SAIPA, that some of you from Zambia will know. So they have completed that research, and we will have that launched today. We are now conducting research in Kenya, being done by the Cooperative University of Kenya. On the advocacy side of it, as a result of the research that we did in Ghana, it was decided that Ghana should have a new cooperative law. In fact, this decision for a new cooperative law has been there for a long time, because our law has been there for even longer. Our law is from 1968. Some of you were not born then. But as a result of that, Cooperation Africa was invited to join what was called a technical working group to help to develop a new law for cooperatives for Ghana. So that is part of that the research and then the advocacy. Finally, the third area is what we call cooperative development and financing. So under this heading, we promote, on the one hand, knowledge exchange. And we do that through a bit of digital technology that we commissioned and had built. We call it the Cooperative Support Network. So it's a digital knowledge exchange system that allows the following to happen. It supports education across the continent for cooperatives, how cooperatives can build capacity. On the one hand, any cooperative can register to join the network and indicate what they do and the areas of help that they think they would like to have. We have pre-identified 7 areas. They can choose one of them. And on the other side, we have resource people who can also join and indicate their areas of expertise. And then the software will match up the cooperative with the resource people, or vice versa. Okay? And then they will have some online support. The cooperatives will get online support from the resource people. Okay? So this is something that is available for the whole continent. Okay? So that's the education bit of it. The financing bit of it, we were able to raise a little bit of money, and we have been giving money to, or the plan is that we give money to cooperatives, but not directly, but we use the national credit union system. So, as many of you will know, many countries have got credit unions and they have an apex body. So we have had discussions in the process of building this up. We held discussions with the apex body in Ghana, and we said we want to pass some money through them to cooperatives. It had cooperatives, because that's our mission. So they identified a primary credit union with members. And so we are now doing a pilot where we have provided $30,000 to women rice growers in a part of Ghana. And we're doing some research. We did a needs assessment. We're now doing research to see, as it were, the ground zero state. And at the end of the period, we'll do another bit of research to see what impact we have made. We intend to use this model to try to finance cooperative development on the continent. We think it's a useful model, partly because the credit unions are very good at assessing the risk of lending to any particular person, so that their level of non-performing loans is often much lower than that of the commercial banks. So, because we would like to get our money back, so we can use it again in another cycle. So that's what we're doing. And so we have funds that we want to use in that way. So these are the 3 areas that we do. As I said, the ACE ambassadors are attending this conference. After this conference, they've had some pre-conference training. Unfortunately, I was not in a position to participate in that pre-conference training, so I'm looking forward to hearing from them tomorrow. But after tomorrow, after the conference, they will have 6 months of support using our cooperative support network. I.e., there will be them on the one side, and then the resource people on the other side. Okay? And education or knowledge exchange will happen between the two. So, why this? The last thing I'm going to talk about very briefly is why this conference. So this conference is being held because Africa is predicted to experience in the coming decades what we would call a demographic tsunami of unemployment. It is not a high level, it's not about population, but it's about high proportions of unemployment, especially among young people. And in some countries, it is not an exaggeration to say that the size of this youth unemployment is approaching a national security crisis. So what we're arguing in our small way is that we need to find jobs for young people. And worker cooperatives, in our view, is a very good way to develop those jobs. So the youth are adopting three main avenues of response to this impending crisis. If you experience it, all of you have seen pictures of young people crossing the Sahara. We'll share some of that in this conference, tomorrow especially, show that worker cooperatives can be very good at tackling the social and economic phenomenon that we have been describing, that is high levels of unemployment. But it's not just worker cooperatives. You need a whole policy framework to work properly. So to summarize, the conference is being organized to highlight the relationship between worker cooperatives and youth unemployment on the one hand, and between worker cooperatives and African cooperative movement on the other, because we're saying the African cooperative movement also needs to engage in trying to address this process. So we're looking at actions that governments can do to support worker cooperatives. We're looking at actions that the cooperative movement can take to support worker cooperatives. So we hope that in these 3 days, as a result of what we're calling large-scale analysis of the problem, case studies of cooperatives from Africa and around the world, a roundtable discussion on what should be done to address the issues identified, which will be on day 3, we hope that we can begin to make at least a little bit of inroads into the problem. Okay. And then we have our African cooperative entrepreneurs who are going to give us a flavor of what they intend to do and to show us the energy and potential for development of cooperatives. The chair for today, who I'm going to hand over to in a minute, will provide you with more details of what the rest of the day today will hold. And we will do that again tomorrow to tell you what it would hold. I would like, before I leave though, just to thank those people who have agreed to speak, both in person and online, to share their experience with us. And for being willing to participate in this conference, and especially to those who have taken time out to travel far to come to Lusaka to share their experience with us. So let me just end very briefly by saying that the last 2 years have been very momentous for the cooperative movement, generally, and in Africa. I'll just pinpoint a couple of things. So in 2024, the Pan-African Parliament promulgated a model cooperative law for the whole continent. In 2025, that law was adopted by the African Union, and it invited all governments to domesticate that law. In 2025, the whole world celebrated the International Year of Cooperatives. So these are positive movements in the cooperative movement, in the cooperative, global cooperative organizing. And the theme that the world was organized, the 2025 International Year was organized, was Cooperatives Build a Better World, which is true, we think, in so many respects. So, cooperatives have a positive impact on economies. Two that I can identify. One is that they tend to make the markets more equitable. So if you have a monopoly or oligopoly, a market controlled by one person, one company, or a few companies, and then many small people, individual consumers or producers. The market is controlled like that. You have an unequal relationship because the individuals cannot really compete against the few small firms or the one big firm. Cooperatives, if the individuals organize themselves into cooperatives, you have a fairer market. So that is one way in which cooperatives contribute to creating a fairer society. But cooperatives can also change the nature of society, change the nature of social relations. Simply put, it's like this. We all know and we're comfortable with companies with shareholders, with investors. The investors own the company, but they don't necessarily have to do any work in the company. But at the end of every period, if the company makes profits, the profits are handed over to the investors. Everybody is comfortable with that. Most people are comfortable with that. The cooperative makes a difference because the owners of the cooperative are in the cooperative. The profits that are made by the company are shared amongst the owners of the cooperative. That creates a different kind of society. So this is an important thing for us to hold up, and this is why some of us support the cooperative development. We think that this arrangement produces positive psychological, social, cultural, and political consequences for the societies that are involved. And I would guess that, or I would surmise that it is perhaps that reason why both the number of people in cooperatives globally and the number of cooperatives globally has been increasing in the last decades. Right? Because the people can see the cooperative impact, people can feel the positive cooperative impact. So, now I wish to call on our chair for the day, Mr. Kwesi Edu-Amankwa, who is a member of Cooperation Africa's Executive Council and a former General Secretary of the International Trade Union Confederation, Africa region, who will lead us through the remainder of today's proceedings. Thank you very much for listening, and welcome again to this conference.
Thank you, Adote, for the opening remarks. Good morning, dear colleagues. I join the co-chair in welcoming all of you to Zambia and to this conference, this important conference on worker cooperatives and decent youth employment in Africa. I'll just take you quickly through the program and then invite you to assist me in having a successful session for today. We'll go through, as part of this opening, we'll take a recorded message from a co-patron. That will be recorded. And then we'll take messages, solidarity messages from the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises, from the Zambia Cooperatives Federation, and then from the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions. After that, we will go through a launch of the Zambia Country Cooperative Report. And then after that, we'll take a group photograph, and then there will be a launch of the African Cooperative Design Challenge by the Regional Director of the International Cooperative Alliance. That will then be followed by a discussion on African development policies, cooperatives, and youth employment. There, we'll be having most of the presentations online. After the presentations, there will be time for questions, and then we will go through the closing. We'll take a short break, and later on in the afternoon, we will have a closed session, which will be a special meeting with the African cooperative entrepreneurs, the ambassadors, as Adote talked about. And at the end of the day, we'll also have a group photograph. So once again, thank you for coming, joining us in this conference, and it's my pleasure to invite the co-patron. Can we have the co-patron's recorded address before we listen to the solidarity messages?
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, leadership of the International Cooperative Alliance Africa, our partners and fellow for this critical dialogue. We convene at a juncture where the African continent faces a defining demographic reality, and hence this theme, structural transformation through collective ownership, is important. Our youth population is expanding exponentially, a phenomenon that will either serve as our greatest demographic dividend or crystallize into a profound structural crisis. The macroeconomic models we've inherited are failing to absorb the millions of young people entering the labor market each year. As the International Labour Organization has consistently highlighted, the transition from schooling is more likely to be trapped into temporary, precarious, or informal labor. We cannot continue to rely on state-centric formal employment or extractive foreign direct investment to close this gap. We must critically interrogate these orthodoxies and build a new, resilient architecture for wealth creation. Worker cooperatives represent far more than a marginal sector or an informal stopgap. They are substantive vehicles for inclusive ownership and structural economic transformation. By democratizing capital and centering human dignity, the cooperative model directly answers the crisis of precarious youth labor. However, if we are to position worker cooperatives as the vanguard of decent youth employment, we must govern them with institutional rigor. Youth-led cooperatives must be equipped to navigate corporate capital structures, execute robust liquidity risk management, and maintain operational metrics that allow them to compete aggressively in the broader market. They must not be treated as secondary economic actors, but as primary drivers of sustainable community-led development. Recent research, including the findings from the ICA EU Co-ops for Development Partnership, underscores that while youth are naturally attracted to the values-based self-help nature of cooperatives, the demographic has not yet been fully engaged to yield its maximum social and economic benefit across Africa. This conference must be the catalyst that changes that trajectory. So moving from cooperative principles to policy influence requires substantive legal coherence and a departure from rhetorical support. As we address the policy dynamics of decent youth employment over the next 3 days, I propose a 3-pillar framework to guide our interventions. Firstly, integration into the new African financial architecture. We must dismantle the structural barriers to cooperative financing. Moving beyond a traditional microfinance, we require dedicated structured capital pathways. We must demand direct funding for grassroots, youth-led cooperative responders, ensuring that capital allocation strategies actively preference community-owned enterprises within our regional development networks. Secondly, substantive legal coherence and due diligence. We must address the regressions and inconsistencies in our national policy instruments. Cooperative laws across the continent require urgent modernization to create genuinely enabling environments. This means embedding non-derogation clauses for cooperative rights, simplifying registration for youth enterprises, and ensuring national procurement policies actively favor worker-owned business. And thirdly, cross-border scaling and the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. The future of African worker cooperatives must be transnational. As we implement the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, our youth cooperatives must be positioned to build cross-border value chains and cooperatives across the regions. We can foster South-South economic integration that retains wealth within the continent. So on mobilizing the youth demographic, the cooperative movement must fundamentally restructure its institutions to better interact and engage with young people. We cannot afford narrow state-centric approaches to enterprise development. We need decentralized Pan-African action that institutionalizes youth leadership within cooperative governance. The outstanding innovations we are already seeing from ethical discussions and construct the actionable structural roadmaps required to secure a future of decent work, collective ownership, and shared prosperity for the youth of Africa. I wish you all a highly productive and transformative conference. Thank you.
Thank you to our co-patron, Geraldine Fraser-Molekechi. We now turn to the solidarity messages, and the first on our list will be our sister Esther Sianga, who is a representative from the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprise. You have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to read a speech on behalf of the Permanent Secretary responsible for the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprise Development. I'm not very good at pronunciations, but I'll try to pronounce them, especially for the names for our colleagues that have come from the other side of Africa. Mr. Bing, Co-Chair, Cooperation Africa. Mr. Manenga Ndulo, Executive Director, SAIPA. Representatives of ICA Africa. Distinguished guests, cooperative leaders, researchers, young entrepreneurs, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Let me write down all protocols observed. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Zambia and to this important conference on workers, cooperatives, and decent youth employment in Africa. On behalf of the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprise Development and the people of Zambia, I extend a warm welcome to our colleagues who have traveled from across Africa and other parts of the world, as well as those that are joining us online. Ladies and gentlemen, we meet at a time when many of our young people are looking for work. Jobs are not growing as fast as our population. This is one of our biggest challenges, but it also gives us a chance to try new ways of doing business. Workers' cooperatives are one of those ways. In a worker cooperative, the people who work in the business also own the business. They make decisions together. They share the profits together. This creates fair jobs and help communities grow stronger. The government of Zambia sees cooperatives as important to our economic transformation agenda. Cooperatives are recognized in the 8th National Development Plan as a key way to create jobs, reduce poverty, and grow the economy in a way that's inclusive and leaves no one behind. Further, our National Cooperative Development Policy supports this by setting out how we will promote and strengthen cooperatives across the country. Ladies and gentlemen, the citizens, through the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises Development and the Department of Cooperatives, we are working to help cooperatives grow. The Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission, CEC, provides empowerment and business support to cooperatives. We especially encourage groups led by young people and women to apply. Cooperatives in farming, manufacturing, and services all benefit from these initiatives. The Constituents Development Fund, CDF, also supports cooperatives in our communities. With CDF, people are forming groups for tailoring, for carpentry, food processing, and waste collection right in their own areas. We are also training cooperative members through the Department of Cooperatives and Entrepreneurship Development. Our training covers cooperative principles and values, cooperative governance and leadership, financial management and bookkeeping, business planning, marketing, record keeping, legal compliance, and registration procedures. These trainings are offered to new and existing cooperatives to help them run well and grow. This conference, organized by the Cooperation Africa, ICA Africa, and SAIPA, is very timely. By bringing together leaders, government, researchers, and young people from across Africa, we can learn from each other and find better ways to promote workers' cooperatives. We are also happy that today, SAIPA will launch a study on cooperatives in Zambia. This study will help us understand what is working and where we need to better. To our young people, you are the future of cooperatives. You have the energy and the new ideas. And we need to take advantage of opportunities such as CEC and CDF. Ladies and gentlemen, over the next 3 days, let us focus on practical ideas. How can we grow more cooperatives? How can we promote workers' cooperatives? How can we make sure that they are well run and make money? How can we connect them to markets and new technologies? Allow me to thank Cooperation Africa, ICA Africa, and CYPA for bringing this conference to Zambia. It is now my honor to officially declare the International Conference on Workers' Cooperatives and Decent Youth Employment in Africa open. I wish you good discussions and may God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Sianga, for those kind and warm words towards the cooperative movement. It's now my pleasure to invite Mr. Emmanuel Muinga, Director General of the Zambia Cooperative Federation, Zambia Cooperative Federation, for a solidarity message.
Good morning. I'm reading a speech on behalf of our MD, Mr. Mwinga Bode. Dr. Adote Bing, co-chair of Cooperation Africa. Professor Manenga Ndulo, distinguished representatives from the International Cooperative Alliance, senior government officials and policymakers present, respected leaders of the cooperative movement across Africa, esteemed researchers, academics, and youth cooperative entrepreneurs, distinguished delegates attending both in person and virtually from across the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor and privilege to welcome you all on behalf of the Zambia Cooperative Federation to Lusaka and to this historic international hybrid conference on worker cooperatives and decent employment in Africa. Allow me to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Cooperation Africa, International Cooperative Alliance, and CYPA for organizing this timely assembly. Hosting this conference in Lusaka is not only a testimony to Zambia's vibrant cooperative heritage, but also a reaffirmation of our collective conviction that worker cooperatives hold the key to solving Africa's most pressing economic challenge: sustainable and dignified youth employment. Across Africa, we stand at a critical demographic juncture. Our continent possesses the youngest population on the planet, a dynamic reservoir of energy, innovation, and ambition. Yet millions of Africans, young Africans, remain trapped in a precarious, informal, and vulnerable employment. The traditional employment models have often struggled to absorb this demographic boom. Worker cooperatives present an empowering alternative. Unlike conventional business models driven solely by capital yield, worker cooperatives place human dignity, democratic ownership, and equitable distribution of wealth at the center of enterprise. In a worker cooperative, young people are not merely labor units. or passive wage earners. They are joint owners, decision makers, and stewards of their financial destinies. Here in Zambia, the Zambia Cooperative Federation is actively driving a transformation to broaden the scope of cooperatives beyond traditional agricultural marketing into industrial worker cooperatives, including technology hubs, transportation logistics, artisan mining, and renewable energy ventures. Through strategic initiatives, including direct collaboration with provincial empowerment programs and institutional capacity building frameworks, we are equipping young people in Zambia with bookkeeping skills, governance discipline, and operational excellence needed to build a sustainable cooperative enterprise. A central highlight of today's opening ceremony is the official launch of the comprehensive study conducted by the Southern Africa Institute for Policy and Research, SIPA, into the state of cooperatives in this country, Zambia. Evidence-based policy is the cornerstone of effective reform. We eagerly anticipate the insights from this baseline research, and it will provide policymakers, development partners, and cooperative federations with the empirical clarity required to modernize cooperative registration. Also streamlining financial access and construct robust support structures tailored for the youth-led cooperatives and enterprises. Over the next 3 days, as researchers, youth entrepreneurs, and policymakers engage across hybrid sessions, I urge us to focus on practical, scalable outcomes. Let us address four key pillars that needs to be looked at immediately. Number one, policy and regulatory reforms. It is very important crafting enabling legal environments that recognize and protect worker-owned enterprises. Number two, access to finance and capital. Developing tailored cooperative financial instruments and venture funds is very, very important. Number three, capital building and education. Embedding cooperative entrepreneurship and financial literacy into vocational and tertiary education is so vital. Number four, cross-border continental networks. Leveraging on intra-African trade and digital platforms to connect worker cooperatives across borders. Very important. Distinguished guests, decent employment is not a concession. It is a fundamental pillar of economic justice and social dignity. By fostering worker cooperatives, we give our youth the tools to build the economic resilience from the ground going upwards. On behalf of the Zambia Cooperative Federation, I wish you fruitful, inspiring, and transformative deliberations over the next 3 days. It is now my distinct privilege to officially welcome you to this conference in Lusaka. Thank you, and may God bless the cooperative movement across Africa.
Thank you, representative of the Zambia Cooperative Federation, and for your pointers to the kinds of issues that should be occupying us in these next 3 days. I now turn to the natural ally of the cooperative movement, the trade union movement, and invite the president of the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions, Mr. Blake Mulala, to address us. President.
Good morning. Allow me to write on the protocols which have already been established. And in the first place, let me recognize the guest of honor, PS Minister of Small and Medium Enterprise and Development, for who is being represented here. Allow me to also thank the organizers, the cooperative movement, for choosing Zambia to be the host of this very important conference. I'm not traveling alone. It is a great honor on behalf of the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions, its affiliates, and the workers of Zambia. Once we invite the CTU, you are inviting the workers of this country. And I am accompanied by my SG, Dr. Joy Ben, and the director team who are with us here. And this gives us a great pleasure. Colleagues, leaders who are coming from Africa and beyond Africa, we want to thank you, more especially to the organizers, for bringing this timely conference and recognizing the importance of having the voice of organized labor represented in this conversation. I didn't know that in life you could be doing something else. When I was whispered to say, hey, do you know Kwasi? Kwasi is here. And I said, no, but what is he doing here? Because I knew him from the trade union where he had made his contribution from around Africa, and I too, Africa. They said, no, he's here. And then wait a minute, a thought came and says, oh, in this life, you can make your contribution on the other side, and again, you don't retire to say, when I stop doing something, then that ends, but your experience will be needed somewhere else again. So, my leader from the trade union, this is what we are learning from how we didn't expect when we were coming here with my SG that we were going to find you under these arrangements. There can never be a successful strategy to address the challenges facing workers without the meaningful participation of the workers themselves. And we cannot continue to develop programs for workers without developing them with workers. We cannot discuss employment without the people who provide labor. We cannot discuss decent work without labor. We cannot develop sustainable solutions to youth unemployment without listening to the young people who are directly experiencing today's labor market realities. Workers are not merely beneficiaries of economic policies, but workers are partners and creators of wealth and central actors in building sustainable economies. Why do we talk about cooperatives and decent use employment? Why do these matter? To us, as Zambia Congress of Trade Unions, we welcome the focus of this conference on worker cooperatives and decent use employment. The challenge before Africa is not simply whether young people have jobs, but also whether those jobs are decent, whether they provide decent incomes and security, whether they provide decent incomes and security, whether they provide opportunities for skills development, and whether they provide opportunities for skills development, and whether they provide a future that workers can face with confidence. The story which we have today across our continent, millions of young people enter the labor market every year with the qualifications, skills, energy, and aspirations, but without sufficient opportunities for decent and sustainable employment. Many are pushed into informal, insecure, and the poorly paid work. This is a trade union matter. It's a union issue where we must be able to discuss and talk to our governments. Why is it that after more than 60 years of African countries getting their own independence, we still have the young population of Africans dying at sea, crossing the Mediterranean Sea, and these are being swallowed by the waters, running away from their own governments? This is a question which we must take a thought about. We need to have a conversation. Why only African youth? Every day you see borders are being closed for our people because they are running away from their own country. And in these countries, there are governments. And when these people are running away, we begin to ask ourselves, what are we providing from our national employment policies? I think these are very important questions. As we discuss, we cannot ignore the news which we see every day that African youth are dying. Why should they leave their own countries with nothing, not even a travel, not even a handbag, nothing? They just move with their clothes and they are ready to die at sea, to go to green pastures. What is it which Africa has failed to do for their young population? Even those who are employed among the youth in Africa, decent work remains a challenge. Workers continue to experience low wages, inadequate social protection, unsafe working environments, casualization, limited opportunities for skills development, and in some instances, restriction on the fundamental workers' rights. Our economic growth, it must deliver decent work for the workers. We must ask whether economic growth is translating into decent jobs, better wages, social protection, and improved living standard for ordinary working people. Africa cannot claim economic transformation while its young people remain unemployed and these workers remain trapped in poverty despite being employed. And we are talking of there is poverty among the working class. If there is poverty among the working class, what happens to those who are depending on the working people? Because the working people now, this is a burden which we cannot run away from. They will expect you to help one way or the other. But if there is poverty, when our salaries, before we plan to build a house, we look what the salaries we are getting. It can't sustain. And we run to the banks. And we go to the banks, we get loans to sustain our living. When the salary comes, you want to divide it first. There is a payment to repayment of the debt which we have. And these places that pressure on the working class, and we say there is poverty which is existing among to the working class because of inadequate pay, which cannot enable them to live a life of respect. The potential of worker cooperatives. From our point as the Zambia Congress of Trade Union, we see a great potential in worker cooperatives. We must begin looking at cooperatives beyond the traditional understanding of agriculture. Worker cooperatives can provide workers and the young people with opportunities to collectively establish can I repeat that? Worker cooperatives provide the young people with the opportunities for them to establish themselves or have some enterprises in construction, manufacturing, agro-processing, transport. When we speak of transport, The world has changed today. We see the digital economy, the platforms. You have these young girls which are coming on board as a way where we can also expand that line. Tourism, renewable energy, information technology is for the young people. As sometimes I struggle even with my phone, and I will tell my children, hey, Daddy, you were born, you are BBC. So BBC, sometimes you don't understand how these things operate. So we have the young generations who are not BBC. They are the ones who are able to drive the information technology, care services, and other sectors of our economy. The cooperative model should empower workers economically, not simply transfer business risks from employer to workers. This is how we look at it as the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions. What do we expect from this conference? Our expectation, the value of this conference will not be determined by the number of speeches which have been given by ourselves. It's not what determines the conference. It's not the speeches which have been delivered, just part of it. Presentations made, or what resolutions are going to be written after the conference. It will be determined by what happens after we leave this conference. That's the ultimate goal which we must look at. It's not the speeches, it's not what one has delivered, but what happens when we leave the conference. From the workers' perspective, we expect practical outcomes. And these practical outcomes, we need to see a clear roadmap, a roadmap for developing and strengthening worker cooperatives in Zambia, with organized labor fully represented in its design and implementation. We expect affordable financing, education and skills, market access, where we have stronger links between worker cooperatives and markets, value chains and public procurement opportunities. Access to finance alone will not sustain cooperatives if they cannot have access to markets. Decent work and social protection, strong institutional support. We want to see, we expect young workers themselves to be at the center of the process, the young workers, because we will be speaking about the young workers. The demographic tsunami of unemployment, which was referred to by the first speaker. When you hear of the word tsunami, you should understand what that means, tsunami. We have young ones who are graduating from universities, colleges, but the labor market cannot provide for them. What happens to them? What happens to them? So if we put the young ones, programs for young people should not be designed first and young people invited only after important decisions have already been made. Young people must be participants in shaping the solutions that affect their employment and economic future. The institute believes that worker cooperatives can make a great contribution towards employment creation and economic empowerment. But we should not present them as a magic solution to every labor market challenge. Successful cooperatives, they require good governance, appropriate skills, access to affordable finance, access to market, and an enabling policy environment. I think this is what government now have to look at, to see what policy environment exists for us to achieve what we want to get. How can a worker who is already heavily indebted raise capital to participate in a cooperative? I think this is the question we must answer. A worker who is highly indebted, how are they going to be able to participate, raise capital in a cooperative? How do we create affordable financing mechanisms specifically designed for worker cooperatives? How can trade unions use their collective strengths and membership base to establish sustainable worker-owned enterprises? How do we ensure that the young people emerging from the same university I've referred to, colleges and skills training institutions, can put their skills and establish enterprises that they can collectively own? We want them to be the owners. How do we ensure that? These are questions that must follow us beyond this conference hall. And there must be that ringing bell in our ears. This is who we're asking these questions. And as we go out, I think these are issues which we must be able to respond to. Workers must not be spectators. Mostly important, we should ensure that workers are not spectators in this process. Nothing for workers without the workers. I think this is the message which we are trying to send. Workers can't be spectators, and if there's nothing for them, then you see, without the workers, nothing can be done. We want to see an Africa where workers have the opportunity to own, shape, and fairly share the wealth they help to create. Grateful that you have invited us to be here. This is across our continent, Africa. The challenges are affecting DRC, Congo, they affect Zambia, because if the economy there are not good, they will come and run into your country. Challenges affecting Mozambique, if they are not shared, they will run into South Africa, and South Africa will complain about migrants taking away their jobs. So Africa must think deep about the tsunami, which is they're talking about youth unemployment. At the end of this conference, it is our expectation, it's our great view at the CTU. We have spoken more about job creation. We see this as an opportunity for job creation. Let's move from discussion to implementation. Let us move from ideas to sustainable worker-owned enterprises. Let us move from commitments to measurable outcomes. Let workers be involved at every stage if we are to see tangible results of what we want to achieve for the young population. From where we come from, we speak mostly, Kwasi will agree with me, we talk mostly about social justice. Social justice. There could be no social justice. Social justice is about a shared future. And the shared future is about a future which brings everybody on board. It's not a future which leaves others behind. And this is what we expect to see. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, President Mulala, President of ZCTU, for emphasizing the inclusion of workers. We'll quickly move to the launch of the report, since our colleagues, dignitaries are here. And I'd like to do we stand? Should we stand for it? Yeah, so we'll move on. And I think at this point, we would like to invite Professor Ndulo, Director of SIPA, to lead the launch of the Zambia Country Cooperative Report. Professor Ndulo.
Good morning. Is it picking up? Good morning. I wish to ride on the protocols already observed. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Southern African Institute for Policy and Research for
lost. In 1998, the new Societies Act, Cooperative Societies Act, was actually establishing, which relinquished the role of the Minister of Cooperatives or the Minister in charge of cooperatives to that of creating a regulatory and enabling environment to the cooperatives to thrive with minimal intervention and support from the state. But then what happens in there was that and the law actually provides a very, very, very basic requirement that as long as there are 10 people that are willing to create a cooperative, they can register a cooperative and, contribute and create it and move on. That has advantages, and as we'll see in a short while, it has been actually a big problem that also leads to the death of cooperatives quite quickly. Then the other laws that have had an impact on the cooperative movement were the SMEs Development Act of 1996 and the Markets and Bus Stations Act of 2007, the Citizenship Economic Empowerment Act of 2006, but we also had the laws that have come up recently, such as the Process Development Fund of 2024, the Mines and Minerals Development Act. Most of these, like Process Development Fund, emphasizes the need of people creating the cooperative for them to access funds. Similarly, the Mines and Minerals Development Act recognizes the artisanal miners as potential artisanal mining as a potential tool for inclusive development. But that could only be undertaken by cooperatives in the mining sector. So in terms of the rules and regulation framework, this is how we have moved over in the last years. Now, they may have had a lot of problems in terms of how they have been interpreted over years and how things have moved on. But in terms of the structures and how the parties, because I want to just make an inference of how each of the parties that has been ruling government has looked at the cooperative. If you observe, Unity was very accommodating. The MMG was quite passive, but in its new manifesto of 2011 upwards, they had put the issue of cooperatives at the center of their manifesto. They really wanted to come in, but I think they're a little bit late. But the PF, when they came into power, they observed that the cooperative movement was actually a critical ingredient of their development plan, and for the very first time, in addition to the Act, there was the national policy on cooperative that was created. And the thing that was also propelling these parties to do this was the policy of the Farmer Input Support Program, where for the beneficiaries to access that particular incentive, they needed to be part and parcel of the cooperative movement. And ultimately, we see that the other governments that took over have also had an embracing of the cooperatives and also expanding the potential benefits in terms of what the cooperatives can access to process development funds and other targeted support like the CDF. Good. So what we know, I'll not spend so much time on this, but basically what we know about cooperative movement is that it's mainly dominated by males. In terms of membership, is dominated by male people compared to females. And if you look at the age range, you realize that the youth, the people that are under 35, for example, are not that much involved in the cooperatives, but we've had a lot of concentration around people between 45 and upwards. And if you are to look at it from, of course, this is the finding that we make, which is the critical message that we can say that at the moment, the cooperative movement has been dominated by people that are largely adults rather than youths, although they are coming up compared to the previous statistics. And most of them have very little low education, having gone up to maybe 12 years of education and have not attained post-education, post-secondary school education, which meant that a lot of the members have actually low education, and that has implications in how you handle them and capacity building for you to work. How do they know where and which is the source where how you can be a member of the cooperative, what a cooperative is. Most of them that we discussed, or that we talked to, said that they were members of the cooperative because they heard of it from social media and the radios. In addition to that, they observed the potential of the political messaging as part and parcel of the sources of information that they use to get information about the cooperative movement. Technology is against me, right? Or it's me against technology? Okay, there we go. So, in terms then, you give the criteria of the definition of a cooperative under international definition or even the Zambian definition to see whether these people that are members of the cooperative really understand what a cooperative is. What you observe is of the members, only about 39% could give you the proper definition of what a cooperative is. And the other non-members, about 20%, would give you a proper definition of what a cooperative is. And 12% of the members could also have the partial understanding, meaning if you gave a criteria of what a cooperative should look like as a business that is inclusive, those criteria, you find that they could not tell you how that is supposed to be like. So they do not have a proper understanding of what a cooperative is, whereas the situation is worse among the non-members. And there was a variation in terms of understanding across the various provinces. We seem to have better understanding of what a cooperative was in the southern, eastern, Lusaka than it was on the Copper Belt. Very few people on the Copper Belt were aware of the proper definition of the cooperative. And in terms of the correct understanding, it was concentrated among the adults, of which the males dominated and females then the youths. So in other words, if we have to make people understand what a cooperative is, we need to ensure that we capture all these people that are involved. Then overall, in terms of where these cooperatives are found, they are actually, this 70% is somehow an underestimation, because with the national database it shows that up to 90% of the cooperatives are in the agriculture sector, and a few are in these other sectors that you can actually unpack. For example, if you look at services, some of them are in fertilizer or distribution services, which is farm-oriented. So we have a lot of concentration of our cooperatives in one sector rather than them being diversified. And that is a very risky situation if we are to create value jobs with value. In terms of how long they had really been registered, the majority of those cooperatives that we discussed or indeed interviewed, about 41% said that they had existed for more than 9 years, and the others had existed for less than 9 years. But this is not surprising, given the fact that really the advocacy for cooperatives is actually just recently emerging, especially in terms of the political messaging as well as the the overall movement in terms of promoting the cooperatives on a higher level. But ideally, for membership to occur, most of them had to pay between 100 and 200 kwacha, which meant that there was some form of commitment from each of those that sought to be members. Okay. Then what are some of the things that seem to be key drivers and motivators for people to join the cooperative? One, you'd understand that those that understood the principles better were more willing to join the cooperatives than those that did not understand the principles better. And people that were much older were more willing to join cooperatives than those people that were younger. And the employment status, you find that the employment status did not seem to have an impact on the likelihood of someone joining a cooperative. But as we observed, the most of them had actually no jobs, other jobs beyond the area in which they are operating. Then ideally, the main economic activity was another key driver in terms of how the people were joining cooperatives. But beyond this, you find that there are some other issues that the people indicated as critical ingredients. For example, they talked about awareness programs under FISP and CDF as the main reason why they went to join those cooperatives. Then there was an issue of leadership and governance. A lot of them said if the cooperative was well governed and was accessible by all, then it meant that they found it easy to trust their leaders and to join. Knowledge sensitization, definitely have said, and social and political influences were some of the issues that were inhibitors in terms of people deciding to join. How did this come into being? For example, in terms of political messaging, most of the members that we are interviewing are saying, we will not join because it seems that the incentives are for a specific political party, or you needed to belong to a certain specific political grouping for you to join. Then in terms of leadership and governance, they observed that there could be people that tend to be dominantly dominating over the cooperatives and everybody else has no other say, and they observed those as some of the inhibitors to joining the cooperative movement. And why do people then want to join the cooperative movement? Based on what they are asked. As you could see, most of them observed that they were reasons for not joining. They could not join because they lacked proper awareness or indeed sensitization for those that were not members. And the other thing was they didn't even know how to join a cooperative. Those are some of the inhibitors. But ideally, as I'll be talking to the conclusions, you realize that the motivation to join was encouragement by government. And guess what? This encouragement by government was to access government incentives. Then secondly, training opportunity. Because they are promised of training opportunities, they would easily join. And access to credit, whereas the last one was by other people that were recommending them to join. In terms of the benefits that you could look at, they talked of increased income, business or farming growth, as well as improved farming input services. Now you see, the issue here is about access to some of the incentives. And this is, I were to empty myself, has been one of the major factors that has not been able to make some of our cooperatives grow. Because they look at joining a cooperative as accessing funds to run a business, know that they are already businessmen that want to get money to grow their businesses. So what usually happens is because they have no long-term plan in terms of what they are going to do with business, when they are given the money or indeed the support, they decide to say, what are we going to do now? They don't have an idea. Then they just share and leave the business without proper growth. And that is one of the problems that we find around the government encouragement or indeed direct support as it stands now. And one of the issues about training opportunities, definitely there are training opportunities that are being offered, and there are also issues that really I've already talked about in terms of improved farming input. You can imagine that you come out as a cooperative in terms of accessing fertilizers, right, under the or inputs under the farmer input support program. But on selling, you are selling as an individual. Does that give you market power? That's what a cooperative is supposed to give you? Most unlikely. So it's like you just come to share resources. After that, you are all set out as individuals. And that also actually cascades to the issue of the Conscious Development Fund, where sometimes people want to invest in a specific project. Once they access the funds, they just share it and do not move in. And this is also further compounded by the legal requirement that only 10 people, the minimum of 10 people are required to form a cooperative. You find 10 poor people come to form a cooperative contributing 100% each, which is not sufficient to create a capital base for a serious business. So when you get the support from government, you don't have sufficient ground to grow, to do any meaningful investment. So the entire design and the entire approach does not seem to promote the growth and establishment of thriving business opportunities through the corporate model among the emerging investments. Sorry, I'm an academic, so if I'm stepping on your feet, come to Unza and beat me. But that is the reality of what they are complaining about. And some of the issues that we observe, especially when it comes to institutional arrangements, someone will be registered by Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of, because they want to access people, but Ministry of Cooperative does not even have them on their database. So things in terms of collaboration among stakeholders seem to be a problem. And some of them, in fact, we are told now that you can register online, right? You register a cooperative online. You just bring a few of your friends, your family members, register online. You have no business training, you've got no understanding of what is going on. The money comes as the household head because you have just got your family members to just say, guys, what kind of chicken are we going to buy today for us to enjoy, instead of investing it. So fungibility of the funds also becomes a critical issue that arises in how you deal with these things. So the enablers, or indeed motivations, increase the income, improve the access to markets, as well as indeed the incentives that are provided for by government. But we also have inhibitors. Poor leadership. Most of them say that most of the problems that we face are poor leadership within the systems of management. Now there are two issues here. When you look at this, the first issue about management is about, do you have a board as required by law to manage your cooperative? Most of them don't have that. Secondly, do you give targeted training to those that are supposed to be leaders of the cooperative, and also those that are supposed to implement it? A farmer is supposed to know how to produce goods, to produce farm output, whereas the manager of a business should know how to do the management of the accounts and all that. But then in terms of the tailoring and design of the training, you find that tangent with what is actually required to be met by those that are in the cooperative movement. And that then leads to poor leadership that discourages the entry and participation of other players in the market. Hope you're not kill me after this. Exclusion and favoritism. That is one of the issues that was coming up. You go, you are told, okay, this person is development fund, okay, which political party do you belong to? And then you are either put in there or you are left out there, or do you live close to us or not close to us? Lack of trust, lack of transparency, all these provide a big disincentive to joining the corporate movement. And others here just speak and reinforces that. Then in terms of financial and technical support, we would simply say that most of the financial support, I'll be concluding shortly, is coming from the, most of the financial and technical support, most of them are dependent right now on, they say that we will provide money by themselves, but then they observe that most of it is coming from what? From government. Most of the support that they get is from government, with donors contributing just a little bit of the support, about 4%, and then the rest of the sources are not that much viable. So the question that we should be asking ourselves is the financial support from government well targeted and well designed? If you look at the programs that look at empowerment of these cooperatives, you realize that there is a bias towards what? Towards agriculture. So if you see, agriculture takes the large chunk, with trade and savings a little bit, and the other types of cooperatives actually having nothing to access from government. And then the donors provide a little bit, and then the self-organizations also bring just a bit of money. And most of them perceive that the assistance that they receive in terms of financial support is minimal. It's minimal because, first of all, sometimes you don't have a business plan before you form a cooperative. And by the time you're forming a cooperative, you are just accessing the money that you have no direction in what to invest in. So are we putting the money in the drain, or are we promoting the growth of these small-scale businesses? So that can have large enterprises. And like I was saying here, you look at the budget support, the Farmer Input Support Program has been one of the major funded programs, and this is mostly concentrated in agriculture. So already there's that shift by these other financing that goes in there. And then if you look at the CDF technique, it's a little bit satisfied, but then we have an issue of how is it accessed, and then how are the people proceed with at the moment. So these positives and negatives that I bring are just there to help us have a conversation and then see how we can strengthen some of the weaknesses that are being observed. In terms of technical assistance, they observe that the majority of the technical assistance is training, information, education, communication, as well as in input and equipment support. Those are the majority of the support in terms of technical assistance. But here is the gist of the matter. Most of them say the support that is actually provided is determined by those that are funding rather than those that are receiving. So you are going to be trained about how to run a cooperative. Meanwhile, you're a farmer and you're not in the management of a cooperative. Is that information right? or would you rather receive extension service to become productive and someone running the cooperative gets the right type of training? So all these are some of the issues that we could be looking at in terms of sources of support. Government seems to be the major across the most about of those that responded in the agricultural sector said that 4% of them had received technical assistance from government. Trade savings said that 1% of them marketing. So you see that it's already concentrated in 2 sub-areas in terms of this support. Now, to crown my presentation, the question would be, what are some of the issues that we should be looking at? First and foremost, is debatable. How is our legal and regulatory framework in terms of promoting the establishment of potentially strong cooperatives that can thrive and succeed over the years? That is one question that we should be looking at. So we realize that the legal framework should promote this resource pooling and improve coordination among institutions. The scattering of the money across could be improved, for example, if you can put it together. But also, when we are establishing the cooperatives, we should realize that they're supposed to put the resources together and establish institutions that should be sustainable. How are we promoting that? If we have observed that 10 people cannot generate, in fact, if you look at some of those cooperatives, it's just father, son, mother, and siblings, eh? You form that cooperative and then you share the money and you're gone. If you cannot establish those as firms that are going to be sustainable, we are putting money in the drain. How could we design a law that can actually allow people that are business-minded and are seriously able to access money and develop for a longer period of time? Targeted intervention should be implemented to increase youth and women. We have seen that under CDF and so forth, there is that kind of intervention, but this should be strengthened across the various incentives that are there. Look-sided support by government. We are saying that possibly it's important to consider other cooperatives that are outside the agricultural sector and see which some of those that are viable and potentially able to establish lasting jobs to actually develop. If you see the kind of businesses that we talked to which are very successful, like the daily cooperatives, most of them are those that had long-term plans and they have been developing, and as they receive aid, they are using it to develop the businesses. Whereas those that just form to access funds, they never live to see the foreign gain. Strengthen awareness and information dissemination strategies beyond the current government programs and social media platforms. So possibly trying to disseminate that and teach people what a cooperative really is. Before you give them money, do they have something that they're doing to be able to work very hard and ensure that that business survives? Strengthen cooperative movement. Part of the weaknesses in terms of cooperative leadership, the cooperative is not the movement as is the CF. Some of the things that you should consider there is, how is the leadership of the cooperative trained? Are we giving them uniform training between those that are supposed to be managers and those that are supposed to be implementers within the cooperative movement? Strengthen the institutional coordination. Here we are talking about CDF is under local government, PCIP is under Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of SMEs is responsible for cooperatives. Each one of them is acting. Who is regulating? Who is building what capacity? How are you bringing them together to form, for example, a secondary kind of cooperative? We don't seem to have that kind of strong coordination, and this fragmentation may not work to strengthen the existing cooperative movement. Tailor the technical assistance and training programs to the needs and specific skills that are required by each of the members. Minimize the social and political influences to promote participation. So in other words, yes, money comes from government if it is all those other participatory measures, but can we try to make them neutral so that many people can also be encouraged to participate? Then we should make it clear or indeed be demand-driven rather than imposed on the people that want to move in there. Improve the autonomy of cooperative movements like Zambia Federation of Zambia, ZCF. These are supposed to be the apex body that, for those that fall under them, they must be able to say, we have trained these people and they comply with the requirements of what a cooperative is, and they are viably able to run a cooperative as a business. Try to have that kind of a structure where recommendation can come in to say, yes, this is observed here and it is doing well. Then you go and find, oh, you're 10 of you, your family, yes, come quickly, let's form a cooperative and go. We share the money. Then the rest is improve the autonomy. And finally, can I say, what do we do to make the crop sustainable in terms of the registration and access to all this. So I'm not the only author. We are several of us, a number of them have not joined us yet, but there's a strong power laid behind there, who is a key author of the paper, which has sacrificed me to this end. You are free to ask questions and to be able to answer them. You may give me a clap.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mudenda, for that comprehensive overview of the study that your team did on the Zambia cooperative situation. All the key stakeholders are there. Today we are not supposed to really discuss the report, but I think you have an indication of what is in there. And I do hope that, I do hope that there will be time for you to actually engage with the findings to see how it will fit the policy in the Zambia. But for now, we will take some questions. If there are any questions on the presentation in terms of clarification, we'll take that from those in here and also from our colleagues online. Any questions? Yes. There's a hand there. Yes.
Thank you so much for the very powerful presentation. Very nice, well articulated, but a few gaps I see, and maybe if you can be able to clarify, like when you talk of the issues of trust in cooperatives, what are the practical steps, or what are the practical issues that came out in relation to that, generally, when you're looking at cooperative governance and leadership, but also in terms of the recommendations, I didn't see anything coming out of that finding as a recommendation to cure the issues that emanated from the respondents in terms of how do we cure this cooperative mistrust and issues related to that. If you can be able to explain or expound on that. Thank you so much.
So I'm Aisha Kurma from Sierra Leone, one of the ACE ambassadors. So it's such an impressive presentation. I don't have like an actual question. What I want to know is that if this data is accessible to the public, how can I like get access to it? Not only for Zambia, like for other African countries, probably if you want to like do similar research or like use it as a model. Because it's interesting.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for a very powerful presentation. I must say, as you were tracing the history, particularly of the legal regime, I could actually see Tanzania in what you were saying in Zambia. Like, it's quite similar. I just wanted to know one thing. One of the biggest challenges that the continent is suffering as far as the legal regime is concerned is the reality that our laws are deeply colonial, like have been affected by the colonial legacy. So I just wanted to know to what extent the last amendment you had, or rather the new law that was made either after the independence or in the most recently, to what extent has it tried to do away with the colonial legacy in various aspects? I can just give one example coming from Tanzania. One of our biggest challenges that our cooperatives are suffering is the state intervention, if I may put it so, dating back from the colonial registrar powers that was directly intervening and controlling the cooperatives then. we in a way inherited that in our immediate post-independent laws, and even now as I speak, we still have a huge registrar of cooperatives power that directly intervene and control the cooperative to the extent that you can hardly see the autonomous, characteristics of the cooperative. So I just wanted to know whether the situation is a bit different after the amendments.
The respondent has been laughing at me in that corner there. she's smiling. But she has a better response to that question in terms of what has been done beyond the colonial legacy. We realize that the state intervention has continued to be there. And it seems that the same problems we are suffering in Tanzania have continued. But one of the issues about Zambia, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they are right now looking at the legal and regulatory framework around the corporate movement. Have you made progress on that? Yeah, so we are hoping that she will speak to it. Let me just answer the other two. She will speak to it in what they have done and whether they are really moving out from the colonial legacy. But coming to the question by her, in terms of the data, everybody thinks cooperative are a very nice thing that can help us to move poverty. But nobody has invested in terms of collecting data. Thanks to Cooperation Africa. They have come in to say, can we try to do something around it? I believe that government, imagine we wanted to actually do a survey of more than 2,000 firms. By the time we got to the ministry, we didn't have contact of the database was not complete, which makes the M&E a little bit difficult to do. So I believe there is need for us to continue to build these data sets and so forth. And I think Adote would be upset if you ask for the data from us. We'd be happy to say you use it for analysis. I think that's what would happen. Then coming to the problem of mistrust. Now, mistrust comes in various ways, especially among the Zambian cooperative movement. One, you find that because most of them are formed to access resources rather than to run a business, they will form a business to say we are a farming community, we want to access inputs. They'll get these inputs, and possibly the leader will try to play around and get you more share than anybody else from those inputs. So people tend not to trust. And secondly, mismanagement tends to come in. So one of the issues that could come in is sensitization as well as capacity building. Because most of them do not really understand what the essence of the cooperative is all about. Like you could see, very few of the people could understand the civic nature, how you are supposed to run as a cooperative, and then they just, if you don't know what you are doing, you can do anything. And this is exactly where the mistrust and so forth comes in. And secondly, if we can play around the way we message certain programs, instead of making it sound political, so that affiliation becomes a critical issue and the leadership in terms of those cooperatives that are formed become a hindrance to growth, we could try to message it as something that is actually an objective and well-established business to develop. In which case, I think this, for me, I don't speak for the ministry, but I believe that you should not give anyone money if they have never gone through training and they have not shown any business acumen in the last 4 or 5 years. Where do you take the money if you have no experience in the business you're doing, and you have not even put money? And because you have not put any money in your business, you are willing to squander whatever comes on. So these are some of the issues that relate to the mistrust and all that kind of stuff. So it's a myriad of issues that can be addressed.
We have 2 questions online.
2 more, okay.
Online. Can we hear them?
Should be
He says.
Thank you so much, Doctor. That was a very wonderful presentation indeed. And it has really shown that you were, as a team, you were on the field. And you really brought up the reality out there. I saw some charts on the CDF and other agro-based cooperatives. Now on the CDF, to my understanding, there is the planning unit which does kind of impact assessment in view of your field and data collection. Did you coordinate it with them so that we can also appreciate some of the findings, because they have got those planners at council to do such, and they have really played a role in trying to help out some of the critical issues you have highlighted. Thank you.
Before you answer, very quickly, our brother there and then in the back.
Thank you very much for such a presentation. My name is Wisdom Yama. I just want to highlight a few things on your presentation, mostly looking at low youth participation and women participation in cooperative sectors. You fully realize that when it comes to information dissemination, there is no information on other sectors of cooperatives, such as the multi-purpose cooperative ones, the worker cooperative ones. Mostly there is the farmers cooperative, the agricultural ones. In Zimbabwe we have housing cooperatives, and they constitute almost 90% of the total population of cooperatives. So if the ministry which is responsible for cooperatives should also work hard to disseminate information on other sectors of cooperatives, this will also encourage other people to actively participate in the cooperative movement. Also, to add on, when you talked about the coming up of policies that are going to be framed in favor of the cooperative movement, it is of paramount importance for the cooperators and those in the cooperative sector to actively participate now when the policies are now being formed by the government, so that the police will speak on their behalf, rather than to, I think there is need for more education when the government of Zambia is making policies on cooperatives, so that the cooperators will fully participate in their voices, so that they can come up with a policy which addresses their needs and issues. Thank you.
Maybe I can answer. Sorry. I'm from the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry. And under the ministry we have 2 projects funded by the World Bank, and they are helping cooperatives. I was wondering whether I didn't hear anything about that in your research. I was wondering whether you contacted these organizations to add on to your information on the research. Thank you.
Is that the project under the CEC?
Lobito.
Robito. Oh, the
Yes.
Robito by... Yeah, okay. This one? I know him.
Good morning, afternoon, Dr. Mudenda. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Simate, representing Brazil Cooperative, Lusaka, Zambia. Thank you for the report, Dr. Mudenda, and I'm looking forward to just taking a deep dive into the report. I hope it will be made available electronically or physically after the meeting. I'm interested in the limitations that you had, Doc. What limitations did the study face, and how did you attempt to go around the limitations? Thank you.
Great. Yeah, Kwaz is one of the best performing in terms of SACCO. Yeah, SACCO, right? Yeah. These are institutions that do not receive anything from government. These are cooperatives that have seen the cooperative as a basis on which they can make their own financial progression and development. So if they were to receive any support, it would be just building on what they already have. So unlike your institution, most of them that we surveyed do not have that background. And that's the variation between those that receive more government support than those that really start on their own. Limitations, like I said, would have loved to have captured a little more sample. For example, she's talking about the Rubito corridor, which is basically concentrated in the northwestern province of Zambia. We didn't go there, but we had at least a bit of chat with a few guys that have an idea of what it is like. And this is where the few, like 2% of donor support comes in, with a lot of more being dedicated to other institutions. So would have loved to do that and get that kind of information. Unfortunately, in the era of technology, we don't have a database that can give you an email or even a phone number of those that are beneficiaries. I believe if we could do that, build the database, is good for both M&E as well as for our own very good information for even policy design. Zimbabwe, excellent input. I believe that the ministry, as it is developing the policy, there is the federation here, they are working together with each other. Whether they are converging on the ideas or diverging, that's another thing. I've not been part and parcel of the process. I pray and hope that they'll converge and ensure that our cooperative movement goes on and develops quite well. The other one was a very good contribution in how we can actually reduce the problems of mistrust and so forth. So, Madam, we did not capture the entire Rogito corridor, for example, in terms of the SME support and cooperative movement in there. And that's one of the weaknesses because we could not cover the entire country. But we believe that what we've so far shared could have some good policy implications and help to inform the conversation that has not been held in so many years. I don't think there's ever been. Professor Ndule, have you ever had it in your history? No, okay. Dr. Mupe, do you have anything to say? Thank you, voice. The problem of male dominance. A quick one? Oh yeah, she has something to say because the legal process was targeted towards.
Okay, just to respond on the issue of the control. So it's control versus regulation and registration. That's the role of the registrar. So in our case, the registrar's function is to register as well as regulate. If you look at the principle of autonomy, it talks about a cooperative being independent. However, it has to comply to the laws that's governing it. So the registrar ensures that the cooperative operates within the confines of the law. So talking about the current status of our legal framework, I think as you saw from what Dr. Mdenda beamed there, it's the Cooperatives Act number 20 of 1998. So between 1998 and now, about 28 years has gone. And if you look at the times, there are a number of policies that have changed. There are a number of issues that have changed. So in order to align to the current government policies, in order to meet even the changes, we are reviewing the Act. And it's been undergoing review since 20, before even the Department of Cooperatives moved from the Ministry of Agriculture. So this review started whilst in the Ministry of Agriculture, and then when the department was transferred to the Ministry of Commerce, the review process again started. Now there is a Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprise Development, where the department is now. We started the review process. Stakeholders who are cooperatives were consulted in all the 10 provinces of the country. And at this moment, we are, I think the bill, the cooperatives policy was done and was launched in 2024 April. With the bill, that's where we still have issues, but at the moment I can confirm that there is a legal draft. And we are happy that you have produced this document. These are some of the issues that will inform the drafting of the bill. We are yet to meet, I think, with the Ministry of Justice. I hope the ministry can accommodate the researchers, because now we have evidence, we have figures, we have some of these challenges that needs to be addressed. And I'm sure this paper or the results have come at a timely moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Was it?
Just to array his fears, when we went to every district, we had to speak to the office of the councillors, the council office that was in charge of CDF, as well as the agricultural departments. So we spoke to the people that are involved in all these things, and we got some good feedback.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mudenda. Let's give him a big hand. And for those who ask about access to the report, I think between SIPA and Cooperation Africa, we'll make sure that there will be access to the report once it's been launched. So thank you very much. We've been sitting down for a while, and I think it's time to take a short break. So move on outside, take a quick group photograph, have a health break, and then we come back. Thank you.
One, two. One, two, one, two. One, two. Low. One, two. One, two. Testing, one, two. 1, 2. 1, 2. One, two.
1, 2, 1, 2. One, two, 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 two. One, two, one, two, one, two, one, two. One, two, one, two, one, two, one, two, one, two, one, two.
One, two. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. One, two, 1, 2. So I'm gonna go get 1, 2. Open the gate. 1, 2. 1, 2.
Dr. Karimi brings agriculture, academia, and international development. And before joining ICA Africa, Dr. Karimi served as Chief of Party and Cooperative Advisor at Health Partners International Development, where she worked to expand cooperative approaches to healthcare and financial protection. Dr. Rose Karimi holds a PhD from Rutgers University with research focused on global coffee supply chains and improving the livelihoods of small farmers, of smallholder farmers.
Is it on? Good after tea. Or is it good after break? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to write on all protocols that have been observed before our session today. And maybe before we begin on this exciting journey of the Africa Cooperative Entrepreneurship Program, allow me to comment on the exciting study that was just launched today. And my comment on that is that I think that's what we need. We need the evidence so that we can have evidence-based policies on our continent. Because as long as we continue making policies without the evidence, we will remain where we are, isn't it? We will remain where we have been. And for this one, you've seen the evidence is there. I don't have to tell you that youth are not involved. They are not engaged in cooperatives. You saw the numbers. So that's the reason why this program exists. We have been told we have had a tsunami of unemployment, youth unemployment in Africa. Now, with this tsunami, we have millions of youth leaving training colleges, universities, and even vocational training schools. The jobs are not there for them. But this, for me, is an opportunity. Why is it an opportunity? It's an opportunity for African governments. It's an opportunity for cooperatives in Africa. It's an opportunity for development partners in Africa to look at the national development plans, to look at our policies, and begin viewing cooperatives as development actors, because that's what they are. They are at the grassroots. The minute we continue to sideline cooperatives when we are developing our national development plans and our policies, then we are not going to achieve our Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. So that's what I want to comment about that. I'm very passionate about evidence, and we have been given the evidence, and I hope Cooperation Africa and your partners, just as the lady from Sierra Leone asked, let's continue getting more of this evidence from the other 53 countries in Africa. I'm sure it's a long journey, but it can be done. With ICA Africa, we can do it together. Thank you. All right. So we can go to our Africa Cooperative Entrepreneurship Program now. And before we do that, I know some of you are asking, what is ICA Africa? Now, the International Cooperative Alliance is a dinosaur. It was founded in 1895 and is the apex organization uniting cooperative federations and organizations worldwide. We represent over 3 million cooperatives, and meaning we have got more than 1 billion members across 110 countries. Now, ICA Africa is one of the regions of the East of the International Cooperative Alliance. So that's the region for Africa. We have 3 other regions in the Americas, headquartered in Costa Rica. We have Europe, headquartered in Brussels, Belgium. Then we have Asia Pacific, headquartered in New Delhi. And then, of course, we have us, headquartered in Nairobi, Kenya. Now, the International Cooperative Alliance has got all these types of cooperatives. There is agriculture and fisheries. There is industry, craft and services. We have banking, We have insurance, retail, housing, like the ones in Zimbabwe, and we have healthcare and others. Stop moving. Now, let's talk about ACE. I just began by saying we have so many youth that are leaving institutions of learning. But much as it's a challenge, we are told there's a tsunami of unemployment. At IC Africa, we see an opportunity. An opportunity because we have got youth that have got ideas. These youth have talent. These youth have the skills. And they have the most important thing, they have a knowledge of their communities. They understand what the challenges in their communities are. And because of that, we also have the cooperative enterprise model that exists. And so what is IC Africa doing? In partnership with Cooperation Africa, we are saying that our cooperative model is our answer to that gap that exists between youth unemployment and the millions of ideas in the minds of these youth, and of course the challenges in their communities. There lies the opportunity to create an enterprise model in the form of cooperatives that are going to transform the African continent. So that's why the Africa Cooperative Entrepreneurship Program exists, to connect these two realities, the unemployment and the realities of the youth that are coming from the training institutions or even in the informal sector with so much brilliant ideas of how they can solve the problems in their communities. And Esther, allow me to introduce you to one of such youth in this room. He completed his master's in 2021 in information systems, and he joined the tsunami of unemployment. However, Ronald Nyamukuya from Zimbabwe, together with 10 other youth with the same skills in information technology, they founded a worker cooperative called Tech Unity. What are they doing? They are an asset today to the African cooperative movement, both to the cooperatives themselves and to the government. Why? Because we have been told that data about cooperatives is very scarce. So they have identified that opportunity. And what they are doing, they are creating cooperative databases for African governments, beginning with their own government in Zimbabwe. So, Ronald, just raise your hand or stand up. So if Zambia needs a cooperative database, we have a worker cooperative from Zimbabwe that can actually assist you do that. Now, that is not all. Ronald is also an asset to ICA Africa because he's the president of the ICA Africa Youth Network. So you are brushing shoulders with the president today of the Africa Youth Network. Okay, let's go on. Now, where did ACE come from? We didn't sit down and imagine. We tested a pilot program. So ACE is anchored in the global cooperative entrepreneurship that was delivered through the ICA European Union framework partnership. So we had 2 pilots in Uganda and Zimbabwe. And in those 2 pilots, we wanted the youth to be engaged in cooperatives, to have them establish cooperatives. So we came up with a mentorship program and a training. And through that, in Uganda, the youth that were involved formed cooperatives. And in Zimbabwe, the youth that were involved also formed established cooperatives. And one of the most, our darling cooperative, is in Zimbabwe. And today we have one of those global cooperative entrepreneurs ambassadors with us. That is Wisdom Nyama. He's going to speak to you, I believe, tomorrow.
So they formed a renewable energy cooperative. And I think they began with less than 20 members. And today we are talking about 56 youth designing, installing, and maintaining solar systems in Zimbabwe. And I remember one day he called me and told me they have a big problem. I asked him, what's the problem? Wisdom. And the problem was the demand for solar in Zimbabwe is too high. I told him that's a good problem. Don't you think it's a good problem? It shows that you can actually increase your capacity and serve the Zimbabwean community. So if you speak to him, you get to know what kind of customers he's serving, not only the households, but even companies in Zimbabwe. So what is ECE then? It's a 6-month mentoring program that is going to empower the people, the young people, to turn the community challenges into solutions. So we first started by selecting the participants. This journey for you started, I think, in February. And how did we get them? We asked them to apply with a community challenge or an idea. So they applied to the program, and then we selected the ideas we thought were very impactful from the youth. And so after the selection then, before coming here today, they have participated in 2 virtual sessions online. And in those 2 virtual sessions, we are telling them to fall in love with their problem. We asked them to fall in love with the problem. Why? Because a problem well defined is half solved, isn't it? So after that, after Lusaka, they are going to be connected to mentors through the Cooperation Africa Support Network. And we believe that during the 6 months, we also undertake some other training so that they actually come up with a cooperative business idea that is viable, that can be tested, and after testing, then they can go ahead and establish the cooperative. So what are the objectives for cohort 1, which this one is? It is to identify and nurture the youth with entrepreneurial ideas and leadership potential, because they are cooperative leaders. Build their skills in cooperative entrepreneurship, and especially the worker cooperative model. Mobilize other youth around their cooperative idea and problem solved together. Then ground each concept in a real, well-understood community need, not the assumptions that they start down and thought about. It has to be a real need. That's why we use a methodology. I'll talk to you about design thinking methodology. Then they're provided with mentorship from experienced cooperative and youth sector practitioners. Some we have in this room, others are online. Then the ambassadors will be supported through actual formalization and registering their cooperative and governance. And then, of course, after that, we can strengthen a continent-wide network of young cooperative entrepreneurs. I've already talked about this. I think I want to talk about how we are getting there. What is this method we are calling a design thinking methodology? Now, this is a method that runs throughout the program, and design thinking moves these youth ambassadors from asking, what business can I start? That's what most people ask, isn't it? What business can I start? That's not the right question. The right question, and that's what we have been, and that's what we have been and we shall be training the young ambassadors about. The right question to ask is, what problem in my community can we solve? Because there lies the opportunity for the business idea. You don't start by saying, what business can I start? The first thing you need to ask is, what problem in my community can we start? And you're not starting alone this time. You're starting with other youth, isn't it? The collective action, that's what will make a cooperative. Now, the cooperative vehicle then becomes a solution to that challenge in your community. It's not the starting point. And that's why we are taking them through our whole journey of 6 months. We have 5 stages in design thinking. The first stage is empathize, where they are listening to the community. After empathizing, they'll go out to the community and listen. What challenges are the people actually facing? Then after that, they'll define to identify what the real challenge is. And I'm happy to report that I think all the youth ambassadors from the 2 virtual sessions, they are still in that problem space, yes, of empathizing and defining, but I believe by end of today, through our afternoon session, they will actually identify the real challenge. What is that we actually need to solve in our community? That's why it's a design challenge. Now, after that, they will now take that real challenge, that is after Lusaka, through a step we are calling a Coopathon. A Coopathon is kind of a hackathon, but this time we are a cooperative thon. So we are designing ideas, or we are designing solutions that can be implemented through a cooperative business enterprise model. That's why we are calling it a Coopathon. So that, or what we are calling a Spark 2, Cooperative Spark 2. So after generating all those many ideas, of course, through the training, they will converge to one business idea that is viable. Then they will develop a prototype for that. They will test the prototype, go back, test it, improve it. After only that step, then will they actually start for real. That is our step 3. After testing, they will then start for real. By starting for real, then they have to go through the formal process of how do you register a business, a cooperative business, your bylaws, governance, marketing, and all those other things. So that was the process. We selected youth between 18 to 35. They submitted an idea. I think I've talked about that. Let's not take much time on that one. This one is not working. So those are the 3 COP Sparks I was talking about. They are now in the first phase, COP Spark 1, which is empathizing and defining. And what they are doing is they are listening to the community, identifying the real challenge, and co-creating their first cooperative concept. And then Spark 2, it's ideation and prototyping, or the Coopathon, a hackathon-style event where they generate possible solutions and test a small-scale version against their defined challenge. And then Let's Cooperate for Real is our COP Spark 3, where they will refine what works with the community and form the cooperative and take the first steps towards registration. So that's where you are. And just a spotlight of what has happened. We had a defined session, empathizing, where they went to the community. I believe every ambassador here listened to their community members. And then virtual 2, they were turning their insights into real problems. And they have a big question, which they used to build their persona of how might we? And that's what we shall be looking at this afternoon. Then we hope that's what they'll tell you tomorrow. They'll give you their questions or the thing that they are trying to solve for their community. How do you become a full youth ambassador now? Once your cooperative is established with the founding team of your fellow youth, then as a youth ambassador now, you are officially recognized as a cooperative leader, driving real member-owned impact, and you continue being a member of the wider Africa Cooperative Youth Entrepreneurship Program. and of course join the ICA Africa Youth Network. What do you stand to gain? A cooperative of your choice, definitely a worker cooperative, grounded in a real evidence-based community need. 6 months of structured mentorship from cooperative and youth entrepreneurship experts, practical training in design thinking, mobilization and problem solving, and a growing network of young cooperators across Africa and beyond, and visibility and of course, peer recognition in our regional conferences and other COPSPAC events. I believe that's a support network that will be available for every ambassador. We'll have network support from ICA Africa, Cooperation Africa, national cooperative associations, and youth organizations. And finally, ACE will take a young person from a first idea like you did, through a disciplined process of listening and designing a real member-owned cooperative, and from idea generator to a recognized cooperative leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rose Karimi. I don't see any room for questions, but I'll use my discretion. If there is any one or two questions regarding the program which has just been launched, we'll take them. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Rose. Actually, the word you used here, Coopathon, actually the word we derived in 2018. We were in a youth cooperative program in Sri Lanka. At that time, my background is I'm running my cooperative running a special economic zone in information technology. So we normally do the hackathon. At that time, how we can bring the youth in the cooperative forum, that was a challenge. We were discussing on that challenge. Then we finally reached a word, cooperative hackathon. And we implemented this first experiment in Kerala, Indian Institute of Management, and we jointly conducted that Coopathon. So actually, she narrated so many things. In that time, actually, we collected some social issues from across the cooperative sectors, and we got 3 good ideas. We created in 48 hours hackathon, and actually, out of so many ideas, 3 ideas implemented, and we actually awarded the first award of $5,000 to a young cooperator from a new cooperative. So this is my experience actually. Thank you for reminding that contest again. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Karimi. So ACE, African Cooperative Entrepreneurs, but we know what ACE means, top quality. And then we are talking about ambassadors of the youth. So you are taking a lead to represent your generation, and also whatever region of the continent you come from. And hopefully, through this process, you indeed be able to turn community challenges into cooperative solutions. Thank you very much, Dr. Rose Karimi. And now we'll go to our colleague who has been waiting very patiently online to join us. Our apologies for keeping you waiting. But we'll be inviting shortly Dr. Guy Chumi, who is a cooperative policy and research specialist at the ILO, to talk to us on Africa's development policies, national, regional, and continental, including the SDGs, strategies and youth unemployment dynamics in Africa. Dr. Chami has been with the International Labour Organization for over 20 years, working extensively on cooperatives and the social and solidarity economy. He joined the ILO in 2001 and has contributed to project development, research, publications, and technical support. He previously worked in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, supporting cooperatives and self-help groups across Eastern and Southern Africa. He is currently based in Geneva as a cooperative policy and research specialist, focusing on development cooperation, policy and research on cooperatives, and the social and solidarity economy enterprises. It's my pleasure to invite Dr. Guy Chami to address us.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Hello?
Good afternoon, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, thank you for this invitation. It's really my pleasure actually to be part of this important event. Yes? Yes, I'm sorry, but I think I'm going to disappoint you already, because people in touch here on worker cooperatives do decent work for youth in Africa. So I see a mistake on the agenda, the utilization. If you don't mind, we'll focus actually on the topic I just explained. And I will share my screen as it's possible.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see this option, so I don't know if I can actually do it. Yes.
Yeah, it's on now.
Okay, good. Yes. So first, yes, I would like maybe to first explain why the ILO is involved in this important event by presenting the ILO. So as it was said, I work for the International Labour Organization, which is actually the United Nations agency for the world of work. So it brings together governments, employers, and workers organizations from its 187 member states. So we are a tripartite organization, which is actually a unique UC characteristic of this organization. So the ILO drafts, adopts, and monitors the implementation of international labor standards on key issues regarding the world of work. And the main objective of our mandate is to promote what we call decent work. So we have for this two important instruments, conventions and recommendations. So maybe something I should also add, the ILO was established in 1990, so we are a bit younger than the ICA, but the unit dealing with cooperative was established in 1920. So it shows already the commitment of the organization towards cooperatives. And in 2002, the ILO adopted a recommendation on the cooperative promotion, which actually put cooperative at the core of its mandate, which is, as I said, the promotion of decent work. Then more recently, in 2022, the ILO resolution on what we call social and solidarity economy, which covers different types of entities, cooperatives, mutual benefit societies, foundations, associations, self-help groups. So basically, organizations that put actually people at the center of their business and over profit. At the same time, usually they have what we call a democratic governance system.
Sorry.
Then the ILO is also part of COPAC, which is the Committee for the Advancement and Promotion of Cooperatives, along with actually the ICA, FAO, other organizations. So that's why cooperatives are really important and have been identified as ILO as a key element to actually realize its mandate, which is, as I said, the promotion of decent work.
Dr. Chami, we can hardly see your, the screen is there, but if you can enlarge it a bit and put it on the PowerPoint. Yeah.
Okay, let me try to do it. Is it better?
Want full screen. Do the full screen.
It is, on my side it is already. On my side it is. So it's not better.
Select slideshow here. Helps it.
Because, yeah, on my side it is. But let me maybe stop and do it again. Sorry for this. Is it the same? Is it better or the same?
No, it's better now.
It's better?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. And sorry again for this. So now, after presenting actually what the ILO is, I thought maybe I should also set the scene, because I said the presentation is on workers' cooperative for young people. And I will also maybe going back to what Dr. Karini also said in terms of, you see, the tsunami. So as all of you know, Africa is the youngest actually continent in the world, with 70% of its population under 30. At the same time, each year, we know that from 10 to 12 million young Africans enter the labor market. But that labor market only offers only 3 million formal jobs annually. So this already shows actually that most jobs are informal, with all the implications in terms of productivity, in terms of lack of protection. So the deficit is not only actually in terms of quantity of those jobs, because jobs are there, but more about the decent work deficit of those jobs. So it's not only about actually like young people lacking skills as well, but more about the structure of those jobs which are relevant. And again, I share actually the optimism of Dr. Caribbean, because this actually is opening for the cooperative model. Why? Because cooperatives, and in particular workers' cooperatives, are one of the few enterprise models that actually offer formal and also voice-giving jobs. So now I wanted also to, maybe before focusing and zooming actually on worker cooperatives, to also present the typology of cooperatives, the different types of cooperatives. So what you have in front of you was actually adopted as in 2018 at the International Conference of Labour Statisticians. So at that time, they were actually discussing statistics on cooperatives. And in order to do so, they had actually to come up with a statistical definition, but also with the different types of cooperatives. So the first one is actually about producer cooperatives, where actually the main element there is actually related to production activity of the members. So usually they try actually to cover production costs together using economies of scale. So there you have marketing cooperatives, supply cooperative, processing cooperative, for instance. Then the second time is actually about consumer user cooperatives, where actually members, they use the goods and the services of the cooperative. And usually the price is equal or better than the market prices. So there we have, for instance, the financial service cooperatives. We also have, you see, like utility cooperatives for water supply or even telecommunication, and housing cooperatives. Then you have workers' cooperatives, where actually the main objective of the members is to get a job through the cooperative. So the job is provided either by the cooperative or in addition, so members are also the employees of those cooperatives. And the last one is actually about multi-stakeholder cooperatives. So this one just combines actually different types of the previous types of cooperatives I just described. So this is the typology which was adopted in 2018 of cooperatives. So now I think we can start understanding why workers' cooperatives work for young people. So I will just pick a few of the boxes in front of you. But the obvious one is about jobs and income. So as I said, the main objective of workers' cooperative, I will know, is to provide jobs actually to its members. At the same time, actually, it's also a nice way for them actually to go out informality by registering actually their businesses they manage actually to kind of formalize their activities and to move away from informality. Voice and leadership is also very interesting because the cooperative doesn't only provide actually jobs, but it also creates actually a stakeholder, a future leader actually, because as we know, with the whole one member, one vote, all members actually, as owners, they have actually to participate actively in the running of the cooperative. And then the same could be said actually about social protection and skills development. So now I wanted actually also to talk about some concrete cases actually regarding work-class cooperatives focusing in Africa. So the first two examples I have actually are from ILO initiatives. So the first one is from Senegal, and here we are talking actually about motorcycle taxi drivers. So as we know, motorcycle taxi drivers are actually one important source actually of livelihood opportunities for young people in West Africa. Usually, most of them, they work by themselves. They actually negotiate informally. They don't have access to like equipment. So the challenge is real. But at the same time, actually, this gives them an opportunity. And this is what we tried actually to do in Senegal through an initiative. So what we did actually, we worked with some motorcycle taxi drivers to first actually sensitize them on the cooperative option, because many of them were not at all familiar actually with the cooperative model. So we did actually a lot in terms of advocacy and raising activities. So based on that, some of them actually got interested in the cooperative model. So we actually, with some tools that we have developed, and I can also go back to those tools later, we actually helped them form their cooperative. And this one actually, this example is quite recent because they had their first General Assembly last June, actually. So by doing so, they actually are now managed to get access to group insurance for actually the taxis, but also get access to financial services. At the same time, actually, they also, which was also very interesting, they decided by themselves actually to also add as members people with disabilities, which shows actually that formalization can go hand in hand with social inclusion. So for the second example, we are still staying actually in Senegal, but dealing now with West picking, which is actually, as we know, a large but almost entirely informal source of youth livelihoods in African cities. And they are, as well, West pickers usually they work individually, they are often stigmatized, they again have no access to social protection, and at the same time actually, they lack also legal recognition. So this is again part of an ILO initiative. So what we did, the same thing, a lot of advocacy, and something also I could have added that we did here, and we also did the same for the previous example, is it was also a value chain analysis to understand actually the potential benefits in the waste management sector, because something that we see, and I will come back to that later, is that usually the struggle actually for cooperative members is actually not to see cooperative as a business. So with actually like waste pickers, we conducted that value chain of the waste management sector for them to identify a possible niche. So after actually this step, we supported them in forming actually the waste picker cooperative. So now the thing for them is that they represent actually a single organized counterpart for actually local municipalities. So thanks to that, they manage actually to get contracts for local municipalities. And at the same time, here as well, they have not actually to financial services, but also social protection contracts. And something which was also important for them was to be able to pull sorted materials for better prices when actually selling to recyclers. So for the next one, actually, we are moving to Kenya, and here we will talk about fundis, which is the Swahili word for artisan and technicians. So usually the issue is not actually about skills in that sector. It is more about the way to verify. Which then was in charge of, you see, like vetting, training, and also certifying the members. So this way, actually, that cooperative, so Funditech cooperative, was actually used as a kind of quality signal for contractors. So this was actually a concrete added value of this, you see, like a cooperative. So the last one actually is from Uganda, the last example. And for this one actually we are moving to the health sector. So as we know, the provision of healthcare services is quite challenging, especially in remote areas, where actually many people cannot have access actually to healthcare services, at least of quality. So again, this was turned actually into a solution. And for this one, actually, there was the support of the US-based organization, and I think Dr. Karine mentioned it, Health Partner. So based in the US, we supported actually the promotion of health cooperatives. And what is interesting here, I think, is that at some point, they managed to kind of localize actually that kind of, you see, like approach. So some people actually were supported by EU-based NGO, decided to form a worker cooperative to promote health cooperatives actually in their communities. So the objective of that worker cooperative, so-called Uganda Health Partner Cooperative, is now to provide technical support to health cooperatives. And again, the impact was concrete. I think like now, I think since last year, they even became a member of the ICA, and I think they have supported 30, I think like health cooperatives. So through health cooperatives, so the people from the community managed to get access to, you see, like quality services from health providers. So I think I would like, if you see, like I was saying, that everything is perfect and there are no challenges, but that maybe I should also talk about, you see, capacities of use. I will start maybe with this problem of frameworks, because I think this one is important. Of course, we have, you see, cooperative laws, but in many cases, actually, those laws, they don't even, you see, like recognize worker cooperative as a type of cooperatives. So many of the examples are presented, and although I presented them as worker cooperatives, in their countries they were forced to use another type of, you see, cooperative because that one didn't exist. So I think it's difficult to promote something which has no legal existence. So I think that one is also critical. And of course, it's also important to have relevant cooperative, you see, like policy and legislation, in line, if possible, with recommendations 1 and 3 on cooperative promotion. So this is the first like challenge I will mention. Access to finance is another one, and for it's true for most cooperatives, regardless of the type. Financial characteristics of, you see, cooperative enterprises. So even for young people, when they want to form a cooperative, getting actually the right, like relevant financial services remain a challenge. So a lot should be done there in terms of advocacy for even financial institutions to better understand actually the characteristics of cooperative enterprises and to design financial services accordingly. Then governance and technical skills gaps. Of course, you see, and as I said, especially I would say even for worker cooperatives, a lot has to be done in terms of, you see, understanding of, you see, like cooperative education, but also governance, because they, as I said, they have to play two roles, employees, but also like owners, you see, of the organization, of the cooperative. So that's why as ILO we have developed a number of tools actually to improve the governance and here as well, access to market. Market access is also an important challenge, and for me, I would say that in Africa, this is maybe the biggest challenge. because we see actually that although cooperatives are supposed to be seen as enterprises, in many cases, even when they are formed, members don't understand actually that actually the cooperative is supposed to be run as a business. And this actually leads me to the next challenge, which is about perception and stigma. So not only about you see people outside the cooperative world, but I would say even within. So I like actually the presentation made by the ICA, by Dr. Kareli, because yes, the focus was on entrepreneurship. And I think it is something is lacking. So in terms of policy recommendations, it's of course modernizing cooperative law. So making sure that the recommendation 193, because that recommendation once again define the role of government. It's really like a very simple document, but with key elements. Integrating cooperative into youth strategy. Many young people, until today, they don't really know, even you see like what a cooperative is, because and in English-speaking African countries, we have actually cooperative colleges, even cooperatives, but this is not even the norm, unfortunately. So a lot should be done also to kind of expose young people to the cooperative model. And then, yes, I talk about it also as well, like the tailor financial product according to the needs of, you see, like cooperatives. And I think we don't need just one financial product. We need a combination of different products according to the level of, you see, like development and maturity of the cooperative. And the last one, again, I talked about it. Yes, they need to embed actually cooperative education so that you see young people are more and more exposed to the cooperative, you see, like a model. So I will stop here, but then, of course, if there is anything I need to clarify, I'm ready to do so. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for this important overview. We'll open the floor for questions. Unfortunately, our next speaker is not available. She has a health challenge, so she cannot join us today. So straight away, we will proceed to pose any questions we may have to Dr. Chami after his presentation.
Doc, thank you for the presentation. From this type of system, how do we look at the long-term sustainability? That's all.
Any other before we ask Dr. Chami to respond?
Yes, this was a short but like very challenging question.
Yeah.
So yes, now I will have maybe to explain a bit the way we work as ILO. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah, because I see my face only now.
Yeah, but we can hear you.
Times, so that's why.
Okay.
I'm getting a bit scared.
We can hear you.
Yes. So sustainability. So the way we work, I talk a lot actually about, you see, like capacity building and the tools we have developed to help people first understand what you see the cooperative model is, and also to form also cooperative, and even you see like how to improve, for instance, the management or even governance of existing cooperatives. So we have developed some tools for this, which are available actually online. I can even share the link with all of you. And the way we work, we use what we call a TOT approach, so training of trainers. So in, for instance, the example I presented, they work into ILO's work. So what we did was to work with existing support organizations or national institutions, whether they are public or private. So usually as ILO, we don't support directly cooperative members. So what we do is actually to work with existing organizations or business development services, you see, like entities, and we actually test them with actually tools and methodologies so that in turn they can support, you see, like cooperative or even young people. So we don't do it directly, we do it through local institutions. And for me, this is one way actually to ensure sustainability by actually strengthening the of existing local organizations, because even if we have a project in a given country, projects they come and go, as we all know. But those organizations, you see, usually they remain. So the work we do is actually done through national institutions. So this is the way we try to promote sustainability.
Thank you. Yes, please come and take the mic.
I'm sorry, but yes, no, yeah.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the presentation. One of the biggest challenges within the continent has to do with the industrialization issue. And even as we speak of the youth employment, we must understand that a lot of jobs are being transported with our raw materials outside the continent. And one of the challenges related to that, even within the cooperative sector, is that most of the cooperatives, for lack of capital, and I mean capital for heavy industrialization machines, is a huge problem to most of the cooperatives. So I would just love to know what strategies do you have to enable the cooperatives to go beyond the survival mode, you know, aside from the mere capacity building that ends at the training level. What other strategies do you have to enable the cooperatives go beyond the current status to the industrialization phase? Because there is where the real employment is. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Doc.
Back to me or to the right?
Yes, back to you.
Okay. So this question, again, you see like a very important one. And I fully agree with what you said, and that's why, and again, because the idea was for me to focus mainly on workers' cooperatives, but you see, if I had more time, I could so like you see presented like some work we do in agribusiness, because this is actually directly related to what you said. Sorry?
Please go. There's be some disturbance, but it's not coming from here. Please go.
Sorry. Yes, okay. So, no, I was saying that for me, it goes back actually to the vision, and I talked about it a bit, you see, like when I was presented, and again, I think even Dr. Karimi also like did the same. Oops, I think there is somebody else talking at the same time. Is the person mute?
No, I think somebody's mic is unmuted and it's disturbing us. It's not from here.
Sorry, can you mute? Because
we can hear you.
I think it's still now catching on because for the most part, I mean, here, people by the market.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, hello.
I cannot hear you. Hello?
Okay, Doc, please go.
Okay, okay. Sorry. Somebody was talking at the same time, so that's why I stopped. No, regarding the question about actually like regarding the fact that cooperative will kind of upgrade to contribute actually to the need for industrialization. I was saying that I think for me it goes back actually to the vision, because unfortunately what we have seen is that in many cases cooperative actually, you see like cooperative members, they don't work as entrepreneurs, and even the way they sometimes even design their business or even establish the cooperative reflect actually that lack. So that's why for me, it starts really from the foundations. You see, to understand actually that cooperative is supposed to be a business, so to understand actually the demand that actually they want to kind of address in the market. So that's why I was saying when I was presenting that for me, this is the biggest actually like challenge, because of course you see like cooperative governance, management are very important issues, but usually those ones, once you have actually the methodology, the tools, I think you can address them. But when it comes to, you see like market access, this is where we actually like struggle. So that's why even when we work with existing cooperatives, when we need to support them, we go back to the basics actually with them. So to explain actually what a cooperative is supposed to be, the obligations and rights of the members, for them to really understand actually, you see like the implication of what it is to be part of a cooperative from a business viewpoint. And then one element we try to work on is to kind of strengthen that link between actually the cooperatives and the private sector actors operating actually in the supply chain. Because this is also an approach we have adopted. We use what we call a supply chain approach or value chain approach. So for the cooperative to understand, you see the environment it operates in. So the interactions the cooperative is supposed to have with all those private sector actors. So processors, buyers, exporters. So that's why, in my view, it's also a lot of what actually the mindset of the cooperative members and the way actually they are also, you see, like running their business. But using, for us in our case at least, what we call a value chain approach helps a lot because, yes, it kind of, you see, forces the cooperative to be able actually to kind of, you see, position itself within, you see, a sector and, yes, better interacting with, you see, like private sector actors. So I think that having that kind of mindset and operating within a value chain approach helps. And something also we discussed with some of our partners like the ICA was also to kind of, you see, like focus a bit more on cooperative and trade. Because even that actually can contribute to changing the mindset of cooperative, to show them actually that, you see, they can achieve also, you see, scale as well. So showcasing, you see, like those kind of good stories in that regard would be also like helpful for, you see, like other operators. So because we are not, you see, like used, I think, to kind of hear about, you see, like stories of, you see, like cooperative achieving scale. And this is also something we are working on. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Guy Chami. Yes, final question.
Yes, Dr. Guy, bonjour. My name is Aris. I have noted something that you said, that in Africa, the Anglophone countries are a bit ahead, where they even have cooperative institutions, and we have seen the ILO working with them in terms of capacity building. We have seen different projects in Mombasa, Uganda, and other countries. So my question is, we, the Francophone countries, we feel like being left behind by the ILO. Why has the ILO chosen to leave us behind? Is it because we don't have cooperative institutions or any other thing? Merci beaucoup.
Doc, before you answer, just take another one. The second one, and then you can answer together.
Good afternoon. I simply want to ask a question. Sir, since you said you were working in social and solidarity economy, in which I am equally working, I'm a trainer in social and solidarity economy, even though I'm not a full trainer. I wish to know whether you have heard about Madame Pauline Yebefa, who is the coordinator of the NGO PFSC, which is the institution carrying the social and solidarity economy agenda in Cameroon. So I wanted to know whether you have heard about her, and have you heard about the RELES, which is the local social and solidarity economy network, which has been implemented in Cameroon and which is already taking power in other African countries. What I mean by taking power is that there are many African countries who have decided to adopt this model. So those are the two questions I wanted to ask. Thank you very much.
Okay, Doc, so we can hear you now.
Yes, thank you. First, maybe I wanted to know, you see, like, where the first speaker, which country?
Congo. Congo. Congo, Brazil. DRC.
DRC.
Republic of Congo, yeah.
So I have to be careful, because I got it from DRC. So I have to be careful. But joke aside, as I said, it's because I didn't have time actually to present the work we do. But we actually work also quite a lot in French-speaking African countries. So actually, I even started listing some of the countries you see we work on currently. And if you recall, among actually the cases I presented, there were at least two, I think. No, one in Senegal. We also work in Cameroon, actually, in Mali, in Côte d'Ivoire. So again, the idea was not for me actually to present, you see, the work we do in all the countries, but just to focus actually on work of cooperatives. But I confirm that we also work quite a lot in West African countries as well. For Central Africa, we have an office actually in Kinshasa, an island office there, and we did actually some training activities in DRC with actually our colleague based there. And yes, we also work so in Central Africa. So if you're interested, I can also share more. I can also share my email address with all of you. So if any clarification on actually the work we do in some regions or countries, I can even provide the information you need. So, and as I said, you are in law, so I have to be careful. The last speaker, yes, indeed, I know Pauline Efa very much, Mama Africa. So we were together in Dakar, actually a few months ago for the SSC. So I'm fully aware of, you see, RELES. And as I said, you see, we have actually a number of activities on SSC in Cameroon. We are currently supporting the government in exploring the possibility of establishing an observatory on the SSC. Yes, so that's the work done.
Thank you. Thank you for those responses. Shall we give Dr. Chami a big hand? So I think that brings us to the end of this session, and we will take a break. But before we go on lunch break, we will take a group photograph of the entire group. And then
thank you.
Yeah, so please, let's take the photo quickly, go for lunch before the closed session with the ambassadors. Thank you.